Okay, let's dive into a connection that I guarantee you've never considered. We're talking about the stock market and the Kama-Sutra. I know, right? What on earth could an ancient Indian text on desire possibly teach a modern stock trader? It sounds like a total stretch, but stick with me, because as we're about to see, the parallels are, well, they're surprisingly powerful.
So yeah, that's the big question we're really going to unpack here. How can this ancient book give us a framework for mastering what is, let's be honest, the total emotional roller coaster of the financial markets? It's pretty wild when you think about it.
All right, Section 1, an unlikely connection. First things first, before we can even start drawing these crazy parallels, we've got to get on the same page about what the Kama Sutra is really all about. Look, let's just be honest. When you hear the word Kama Sutra, your mind probably jumps to one specific thing, right? But that common view, it completely misses the bigger picture. It's not just a how-to manual. At its core, it's this deep psychological guide to understanding desire, pleasure, and just human behavior. It's a handbook for living a good, balanced life. And that deeper wisdom, that's the key to this whole thing. Which brings us to Section 2, Mastering Market Desire. Okay, so now that we know its real purpose, we can finally start to connect the dots to trading. And it all comes down to this one core concept, mastering Kama, which is essentially desire. So what exactly is Kama? Well, it's this ancient Sanskrit word that covers everything from desire and passion to raw emotion and pleasure. And here's the crucial part. The whole philosophy isn't about crushing those feelings or pretending they don't exist. Nope. It's about understanding them, the good, the bad, all of it, so you can make a conscious choice to act on the ones that actually help you. Now, does that sound familiar to anyone who's ever been glued to a stock chart, heart-pounding?
And that's exactly why this ancient idea is so relevant right now. Because if you look at the trading world, study after study suggests success isn't about having the fanciest strategy. It's about 80% psychology and only 20% strategy. Think about that. Your success, your ability to actually win, is tied directly to how well you can manage your own internal world, your own karma. You see, this completely reframes the whole challenge of trading. Your biggest opponent isn't the S&P 500 or some hedge fund. It's you. It's that internal battle with your own karma, with greed, with fear, with that impulse to just hit sell. If you can master that, you master the entire game.
So, on to Section 3, Mental Postures for Trading. Okay, this is where things get really interesting and, honestly, pretty creative. We're going to talk about asanas, or postures, but not for your body, for your mind. Yeah, we're taking a bit of a metaphorical leap here. So forget physical yoga poses. I want you to think of these asanas as disciplined mental positions, strategic stances you can take. They're specific, practical things you can do over and over again to keep your head clear and stay balanced, especially when the market is going crazy. Okay, let's make this super practical. What are these mental asanas? Well, for mental clarity, you could practice the focused asana. That's just 15 minutes of daily meditation. Or when things get chaotic, you adopt the rational asana by taking some deep breaths. A simple body scan to check in with yourself, that's the self-aware asana. And just deciding to wipe the slate clean and treat each day as a fresh start, that, my friends, is the resilient asana. These aren't just cute names, they're real practical tools. And it works for emotional discipline too. You know that feeling of overconfidence after a few wins? You can counter that with the humility asana, just by keeping a detailed trading journal. Or what about when everyone is panicking and selling? That's when you hold the independent asana, trusting your own research instead of getting swept up in the herd mentality. Moving on to Section 4, a holistic trading philosophy. Now, these mental postures are awesome, they're super powerful, but they're even better when they're not just isolated tricks, but part of a bigger, more complete philosophy for how you approach trading. In that framework is something called the Purusharthas, which are basically the 4 main goals of a well-lived life in Indian philosophy. So it's not just about making money, that's Artha, or managing your desires, which is Kama. It also includes Dharma, which is your ethics, and Moksha, which is this idea of being liberated from being too attached to the results. The key here isn't to max out one of them, it's to find a balance between all 4. That's what leads to real long-term success. So check this out. Here's how this literally becomes a blue point for a trader. Your financial plan, your risk management, that's your Artha. Trading with integrity, maybe even considering things like ESG factors, that's your Dharma. We've already talked a lot about Kama, which is managing your greed and fear. But then there's this last piece, Moksha, and it's so important. It's about detaching from the wins and the losses so you don't get completely burned out. When you put it all together, you get this incredibly balanced and honestly sustainable way to navigate the markets.
All right, our final section, number 5, the power of metaphor. As we start to wrap this up, it's becoming pretty clear that the real lesson here goes way beyond just trading tips. It's really about a powerful way of thinking.
Because what this all comes down to is the incredible power of using a metaphor. It shows how you can take a really modern problem, like the psychology of trading, look at it through a completely different ancient lens, and unlock solutions you would have never thought of otherwise. And hey, this isn't just some one-off party trick. It's a method, a repeatable process for innovation. We literally just did it. We took a diverse perspective, an ancient text, we used it as a metaphor for trading, and we applied it to a real human problem. You can use this exact method of creative problem solving in, well, just about any part of your life. At the end of the day, what this is all about is using creative thinking to build a bridge between ancient wisdom and our biggest modern challenges. It's in that weird, unexpected space, that gap between two totally disconnected worlds. That's where the real magic, the real innovation happens. So I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. If an ancient text on desire can give us a new way to think about Wall Street, what other ancient wisdom is out there, just sitting on a shelf, waiting for someone like you to come along and use it to solve one of our most pressing modern problems?